Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the When Wrestling Mattered podcast. With me, your host Alex, and my co-host and brother John. How are you, John?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Brilliant. So today we're reviewing the next Nitro in our series, WCW Monday Nitro from the 5th of October 1998. Last week's Nitro we felt was sort of middle of the road. Although actually looking back on it, I think maybe I was a bit harsh on it saying that, and I would probably lean more towards it being a good show. Um, than an average show. I think I was maybe a bit harsh on it because I'm comparing it to the first ever one we did, So I think maybe that's why I'm being a bit harsh on it. But it's yeah,
In hindsight, maybe we shouldn't have started with one of the best ever Nitros.
yeah, one of the best ever. It was sort of hard act to follow, isn't it? But I thought this was a good Nitro. I would say maybe on par with last week. I don't like there are more iconic moments in this week's show, but I don't know that I would say the overall show kept me any more entertained than last week's show did. I thought there were more lulls in this show than there were in last week's, where I felt it was pretty consistent.
So I felt like the first hour of the show was pretty
Poor.
terrible.
Yeah.
It did nothing for me. And then as soon as it hits the hour mark, I loved this show. There's so many there were so many iconic, so many segments in this that I went, oh, it's this segment on this show, and I didn't realize it was. Now, whether or not they're actually good is another matter. But in terms of being entertaining, as soon as it hit the second hour, I loved this whole thing from to the end.
I watched the most recent episode of AEW. Was it Dynamite or was it Collision? Samoa Joe versus Hook in the main event. Um, it was a good show, and the main event was great. But you know what really bothered me about it, right? The show starts, some pyro goes off, less than impressive pyro goes off. Um, and then while they're talking about what's going to happen on the rest of the show, Christian Cage's music hits, and he walks out for a match with Dustin Rhodes for the TNT Championship. He gets in the ring, and they're still running down what's going to happen on the rest of the card. Everything's so rushed. Like there's no downtime. This show starts, and we've got 10 minutes basically dedicated to the Sting Bret Hart storyline.
Yeah,
Just so you got the first, what, 60 seconds is all highlights from last week. Really, really nicely done video package. Really
yeah,
nicely done video package. Then you go straight to the announcers discussing it, and they start going back to like specific instances over the last number of weeks that have happened. The pyro goes off, but then they just spend 10 minutes just focusing on the most important thing. They don't go bang into a fucking title match. First thing that happens on the show. I'm just like, everything feels so rushed in modern wrestling.
what I quite like about the Nitro, and it might have been the same with Raw, but we haven't been watching any Raws. They're not afraid, and WCW always did this. They're not afraid to just sit on the announce desk and have three middle-aged men sit there talk about wrestling for 5 minutes
Yeah.
to say, "This is the setup. This is what's happened," and it's not boring. You're sitting there. These are three charismatic guys, and it works. Like you don't have to immediately get to something going on. I was quite happy to sit here and listen to these guys relay this story to you. Of this is why you should care about Bret Hart and Sting. This is what's coming up tonight. And yeah, you don't need to rush stuff at all. Yeah, I like the beginning of this. The promo package for Sting Bret Hart was really, really well done. We've been a bit critical of WCW's promos in the last few weeks. The first hour of this show was really promo package heavy, like really to the degree that I was getting annoyed with it, and then it kind of slowed down the second hour. But in terms of their presentation, they were much better.
The first hour was basically an extended advert for Halloween Havoc, wasn't it? Really, with one or two matches sprinkled in.
It is. I'm glad you brought up Halloween Havoc because I've got a couple of things to say. One, Halloween Havoc. It looks great. It's got a great presentation. The fact it's sponsored by Snickers always ruins it, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It always looks great. It's a great name. It has a great presentation. The actual set for Halloween Havoc looks always great. And then the fact they always have to say sponsored by Snickers. And right at the bottom of this, like devil, is just a big Snickers bar. Just always ruins the presentation. Like, I don't know how much Snickers is giving you, but I don't think it's enough. Genuinely, it always ruins it so much. But also, speaking of Halloween Havoc, I was. This is just a little John side note thing, okay? Is Halloween Havoc one of WCW's big four pay per views? Because I was thinking this. I was thinking, obviously, WWE has WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series.
I'm gonna write
We're gonna
down.
write them down.
I'm gonna write down the four that I would pick. So
Oh, here's the thing. So I sort of came up with a list of the four that I think are WCW's big four pay per views.
right, hang on, let me think. Hang on, I'm really trying to. I've got to remember all their pay-per-views now.
But here's the thing. I guarantee you're going to come up with four, and then you'll go, oh, actually, you can make a case for this one.
20 minutes later.
Right, hang on. I've just got to think of what they are in. Oh man. Fuck,
Yeah, it's
there's too
hard.
many of them. There's too many of them. I can't do it
2 hours later.
because there's three that immediately. Right, tell me your
Okay,
four.
so Starcade's not obviously their WrestleMania, right?
Yeah,
Then I went for Halloween Havoc.
yeah.
It's iconic. It's got a great name. Over the years, you've had big matches there. Okay, number three, I went for Full Brawl
That was one of my ones. I haven't written that
because,
one.
but mainly because not because Full Brawl the self name is, but because it's got always had the War Games at Full Brawl, right? So that was the big, that's kind of like their survivors. It's their gimmick match thing.
Yeah.
And then I got to the fourth one, and this is where I struggled because I kept. So my initial thought is Super Brawl.
Oh man, that was right down my list, bruv.
Oh, see, because I think that was one of their from my memory, that's one of their very first ones. It had one of the longest running things.
Mm-hmm.
You've had some big matches at Super Brawl over the years. Here's the thing, right? I can be convinced on Super Brawl because when I started thinking about it, I thought Bash at the Beach.
That mate, that's my one. That's the one I wrote down. That was
Yeah. See, this is the thing.
it's iconic. There's been so many like the NWO thing sold it, but also
Mm,
Hogan debuted at Bash at the Beach like 2 years before that. Like you know what I mean? Like, and it's a big summer themed,
yeah.
and it's a
Wh-
wonderful remember of the beach.
Which is very WCW. This is the thing. I'd almost be tempted to say Full Brawl wouldn't be there, except War Games is so iconic to
Yeah,
WCW that I think you have to include it. So I think it is Starcade, Halloween Havoc, Full Brawl. I'm
6.5 hours later.
so okay. I'm willing to give away Super Brawl and say Bash at the Beach, but what about the Great American Bash?
1 eternity later.
I had a quick Google of what were the big four WCW pay per views,
yeah.
and the first sort of result that comes up. This is what they say the big four were genuinely considered to be,
Uh-huh.
supposedly: Starcade, Halloween Havoc,
Okay.
Great American Bash,
Ooh.
Slamboree.
Slamboree? Saturn versus Lismark Jr. What did you feel about this match, John? Because I have to say, I don't remember disliking Lismark when I was younger. He is fucking awful. He
I
must
don't
be
remember.
he
Yeah,
must be the least talented of the luchadors, right? Lismark, if he is a luchador, he's not very good.
I don't remember Lismart Jr. being so massive. He's like 6'2". In my mind, Lismart Jr. is like a Rey Mysterio sized guy. Like he's a regular size sort of luchador. He's
Yeah.
massive, and he's towering over Saturn in this. No, I mean Lismart Jr. wasn't very good. Saturn was okay. Saturn's been kind of a mainstay the last few weeks after Full Brawl, but I am getting a bit worried about Saturn because the match is fine. It's short, it's sweet. Saturn wins. Death Valley Driver looks good. All his moves look nice and crisp and everything. But he's just come off the biggest win of his career. And they just seem to be like, well, the way we're going to keep him getting over is by having him beat people in 5, 6, 7 minute matches. I think maybe the biggest problem, or maybe the biggest alarm bell for maybe Saturn is since he won at Full Brawl, Billy Kidman's a bigger star.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at, I
Wow.
mean, they've both been on pretty much every show since Full Brawl. Who's more over now? You can tell from the reactions, people have completely fallen over head over heels for Billy Kidman. Saturn seen this might be the kind of thing where Saturn actually isn't as over as maybe I remember him being. And this, I think, is one of those things that I'm going to talk about storytelling. But like, quite often, I think people get confused about when they say watch a TV show or fall in love with a character from like Star Wars or Marvel or something. They like the story arc. They like the character's arc in that thing, right? So you'll see a movie with a character and you go, "I loved that character. He was great. I'd like to see him in more stuff." Actually, you don't. The reason you like that character is because he had this great story and you live that story with them. And now that is done, that character doesn't really serve a purpose anymore. Saturn had his great story. There might be a reason why Saturn never really lived up to anything else ever again, because he never. It's just that's as good as he got. That was his Saturn's story, and now it's time for Kidman to have his, moment because he has far more potential.
And that isn't necessarily, I mean, a slight on Saturn,
Oh no, no, no,
his
no.
story managed to shoot off. And I'll be honest, a big thing I got from later on this show, and I probably will mention it again later, is just that I remember when Kidman came out, and I was like, shit, like this guy was a fucking megastar. Like he was so hot, man. Like he was
Yeah.
such, like everything he did was like got a reaction. Every match he was in was fire.
I think what's a damning testament to this match is we've started talking about Billy Kidman because he's the more interesting thing here. Liz Mark Jr. versus Perry Saturn is distinctly a nothing match. I think Saturn immediately needs to get put into us. They need to find a new storyline for him, which they do, if my memory's correct. Um, if my memory is correct. But yeah, a nothing match, a perfectly decent opener. Yeah.
Yeah, Saturn wins the DVD. End of story, really. Nothing more to be said, is there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so after that match, we've got you have like another promo package for Halloween Havoc. DDP and Goldberg and Hogan and Warrior are the focus. One of the best matches of the card, if not the best, and the worst match, undisputedly. We have Kaz Hayashi versus Ernest the Cat Miller. What do you think of this, John?
It was fine. It was the Cat has great heat. He has great heat. I'm actually enjoying his little thing of coming out every week and giving the guy 5 seconds to go. But it's the same thing. He offers Kaz Hayashi to do it. He does a nice little judo throw thing where he kind of grabs his arm, spins him over. That was cool. At one point, he grabs his stomach in like a weird. He grabs Kaz Hayashi's stomach in like a submission hold thing. It's like the claw, like the iron claw, but I'm not entirely sure what it was grabbing. I like the way Mike Tenay made a comment how he's done his research on the cat and how all his claims, even though it's really obnoxious and annoying, are all true. And that's basically it. The only other the cat wins with the same thing after about 2 minutes. Sonny Ono decides to join the cat. It seems as like a pairing. At which point, I think it's Larry Zbyszko makes the comment.
They say the Japanese have 7 hearts.
About the Japanese have 7 hearts, and I didn't know. I was like, what's that from? I don't know what that was.
No, I don't know. It caught me off guard, and I thought that's got to be a reference to something, but I don't know what it's a reference to. It's got to be a film or
A
something.
movie, yeah, or I don't know, a saying, I don't know, but whatever it is, I don't know what it means, and why is it relevant here?
Is that a really poetic way of saying that their loyalty is fleeting?
I don't know. Is it?
That's my best guess. I also quite like the fact that there was some level of character continuity here. Ernest the Cat Miller has learned that sometimes these foreigners don't understand what he's saying. So he's not surprised this week when he doesn't understand. He says, "If you don't understand me, that's on you." Like he says it straight up. And then when he doesn't react, he just kicks him.
This is character growth. That's good.
I felt like the Cat was quite sloppy in this match. He missed a couple of kicks in this match that he really whiffed, and Kaz Hayashi just had to sell. I think actually the end of the match, I think might have been that big kick off the top rope, might have been meant to be the finish.
Maybe, yeah.
But he missed it so badly because you'll notice he didn't even do a real feliner kick. Kaz Hayashi just stood up and he just side kicked him and pinned him. But I
Yeah.
think it was that he botched it so
Yeah, couldn't
badly that it just like I can't pin him off that. Like I obviously missed that kick. So I
Yeah.
think that was maybe the botched finish. But yeah, and that's it. So yeah, then we get another DDP Goldberg hype video. It just kept coming, the hype videos and promo packages. Jerry Flynn versus Hoovy.
What I liked about this was the match starts and it's Jerry Flynn versus Juve, so it's a heavyweight versus a cruiserweight, and all of a sudden you just hear Tony Schiavone go, "What?" And I was like, "What?" And then it cuts to them, and Disco Inferno has joined the booth, and he's commentating on this match, and it really is just Disco Inferno talking about this and talking about his weight and joining the cruiserweights is really what this segment is. The fact that Juventud Guerrero and Jerry Flynn are having a match is kind of irrelevant. The match they have is fine, but the main event here is Disco Inferno getting this over, which I loved all that bit.
No.
The match I'm torn on because there's nothing really stands out about it. It's just Jerry Flynn is the bigger guy. He's beaten Juventud Guerrero up a lot, and Juventud suddenly hits the UV driver and pins him.
And he picked the guy up. It was really impressive looking, and he hit the Hoovy.
Impressive looking, yeah.
Everyone popped. Everyone popped for the finish.
But what's the storyline here? What's the overarching story? The overarching story is Disco Inferno is a heavyweight trying to screw over the cruiserweights because he's heavier. Okay, Disco's what, 2 pounds over? Doesn't matter because Jerry Flynn's 40 pounds over, and he just beat Jerry Flynn without even trying in 2 minutes. So where's the heat now?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose you're right. That is the problem with it. Yeah, you had him beat a bigger guy than Disco. That was stupid. You're right. I didn't thought of it from that angle. Yeah, you're 100% right. The fact that he beat a bigger guy.
And the whole point is Disco Inferno's on commentary going, "Oh no, I'm a cruiserweight." But you're not. You're heavier, and you're trying to screw over the cruiserweights by being heavier because you know they're at a disadvantage. But you can't be that much of a disadvantage because he just beat a guy. However, that is just the match, okay?
Yeah.
The main thing here is Disco's commentary. I have to say, I've fallen in love with Disco Inferno the last couple of weeks from his character work and all that. He's been great.
I love this gimmick. I love this weight gimmick. I think it's amazing.
I do too. I do too.
The concept of it is perfect.
At one point, they mention what the weight is for a cruiserweight: 215 and less.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, 215? Jesus. Like that's not bad. They were like, you know, I know wrestlers have got smaller over the years, but how many like heavyweight champions now are 215 or more? I don't know.
It's a comment he makes, and he goes, "Oh, there's another cruiserweight here we need to discuss." Jerry Flynn.
I mean, look at Flynn. He weighs about as much as I do. Was he about 217 pounds?
No, Flynn's got to weigh 240. What do you? Well, then again, maybe if you think you weigh 215.
Well, Flynn's a lot taller than Disco.
Yeah, I loved that. Yeah, because they're listing off all the great cruiserweights. They're saying, you know, Psychosis, Guerrera, Mysterio, Kidman, and he goes, "Well, I'm Jerry Flynn." Let's not overlook Jerry Flynn right now.
It's great.
Yeah, great. Love that comment. I thought that was great. There was one where Disco makes the comment that he's slim in the waist and cute in the face. Now, I don't know if that is just like a common phrase that people say about themselves or whatever. But if it's not, for this gimmick, slap that on a t-shirt, you print money. Disco was the star of this segment from his commentary. It's just this gimmick's fantastic.
More DDP Goldberg hype. again, you're talking now. It's got to be a combined 10 minutes.
4, yeah, about
Like,
4 promos, 4 or 5 promos.
it's got to be a
Hammering.
combined 10 minutes of airtime. But I really like Mike Tenay in the back talking to fans. I
Yeah,
really like those little segments.
yeah, me too.
The first one wasn't as good and was a bit more cringy. I felt like
Yes.
yeah, the first one was a bit more cringy because I think they were more like kids and they didn't really know what to say. And then the last woman was like a weird southern redneck who went, "DDP's the best. Go get him, boy! Woo!"
He is the best. You go, boy.
So this is Villano 5, the one who didn't get crippled last week, whatever it was, against Raf. There isn't anything to say. It's another Raf squash match. Raf looks $1 million. He does a brilliant tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. He
Yeah,
does this lovely back elbow over the top where he leaps and elbows him.
he absolutely did more moves this week, more impressive,
Yes.
agile
Yeah.
moves, and I actually enjoyed this match because of that.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the same thing we've seen the last few weeks. Raf is a dominant monster. He looks fantastic. He does this thing where like the camera comes in close and he kind of does the kind of half turn look into the crowd. It looks great. He looks like a star. Why this guy isn't in Mongo's place in the Horsemen or Brian Adams' place in the NWO or something? Why he's just this kind of milling around being dominant heel or not dominant wrestler? Because the fans are into him as well. He looks great. I know his promos. Have him be a quiet killer. I don't know. There must be something more you can do with Rafi because he's money.
There is another part where Tanay talks to more fans outside after that. I can't remember all the comments, but I remember the first guy, like Tanay goes,
What do you think about DDP and Goldberg?
I'm making my prediction. DDP can put the diamond cutter on in any position, right? When Goldberg goes to put him in the jackhammer, DDP will diamond cut him right there. 1, 2, 3. It's over.
"Holy shit, dude! Like you trying to get a job or something?"
Bischoff heard that and was like, write that down, write that down. So I remember when we first watched this, in my mind, this is how the show opened.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Just this is how I remember Nitro opening when we first watched it. But obviously, I was wrong. But this is when the show really begins, to be honest. So a limo pulls up, and out step the Wolfpack, looking pissed off.
Yeah, Luger steps out of the limousine, the first member of the Wolfpack step out, and the crowd go mental just for realizing that the Wolfpack are at the building.
I would venture to say that, well, there's Luger coming out. K-Dog. That's some serious look on some faces right there. And there's Sting. A man who will face Bret Hart tonight.
Guys just look like they mean business. They look like they're there to kick some ass and take some names.
It's a nice touch just having the luchadors in the back, just in like
Yeah.
clothes with their masks on.
Yeah.
There's just like Le Parker there. He's just got like a polo shirt and jeans on with his mask on. It's quite funny.
Yeah. So the Wolfpack carry on going through. They turn down some corridors. I like the way they don't just immediately walk to the place they're meant to walk to. They do a couple of turn backs, like they don't actually know where they're meant to be going, and they're not sure where they're going. They go down this corridor. As they are about to turn to a room, Kevin Nash turns back to the Wolfpack members and tells them to be quiet, which I thought was a nice touch.
Mm-hmm.
Which he immediately ruins when he walks in the room and just goes, "What's up, dog?"
Something's going on.
But yeah, so they basically go into the NWO locker room to attack them, and it's amazing. It's just a badass. So this is actually, I was going to get on this. So it's just a big fight, right? That's all it is. It's just a big fight. Lots of punches being thrown. Sting slams Vincent into a dressing room mirror.
Yeah.
First thing, and you hear it smash. You have lots of guys just choking each other and fighting. Very quickly, you have security intervene and try and stop it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing. It's just the best. It's just a very real fight as well, because like in fights in real life, right? If anyone's ever seen one, quite often it isn't like a fight has a beginning and end. There's bits in there with especially big groups of people where after maybe 30 seconds or a minute of people swinging for each other and stuff, you will just have people standing away from the fight, even though they're involved in it, kind of just being like standing there a bit gormless, not really knowing what they should be doing.
You're right. When there are like huge, big gang fights, one like gang on gang fights, that you will have little pockets fighting, and then people will peel off from little pockets and end up. You're right, just sort of hovering.
Yeah, just to have like a 20-second, just like a 20-second breather where they're surveying it, like what the hell's going on, and then they'll dive back in.
Especially if you've got people trying to separate the fight as well, like you'll end up.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fight and trying to get back into the fight. It's I have to say, I thought, and this was throughout this whole night, and it's probably been, to be fair, it is probably just a WCW thing, right? Because it's quite cowboyish, but that really works because they do really good like guerrilla style filming in the back, where it's just a guy chasing another group of guys. Like there's no profession. It's not like, oh, they're running into another room. Cut to the camera that we have set up in the other room.
Yeah,
that they're then going to film that next part of the scene. WCW was just. It's just a guy with a camera, or a couple of guys with cameras. You might have a few different camera angles, but they're just guys with probably cameras with big wires trailing behind them.
Yeah,
running around backstage.
Well, I get the impression that what they probably said to the cameraman was, "Look, stay with Sting."
Yeah.
Like if you see him walk away, follow him. But apart from that, you just have this one guy with a camera. You know what this actually reminded me of? And I'm not saying it's to the same level or anything. You know Daredevil?
Mm-hmm.
You know how it's famous for the one-shot corridor fight scenes?
Yeah, holy shit, you're right. Yeah,
this was it.
Old boy. It's the old boy of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
A병 손들어라. 어서 가라. 피 많이 흘렸다.
just one shot for like 4.5 minutes following through. You have people coming in and out of the fight. It's really great. At one point, when the cops are involved, there are some funny moments in this. Like someone turns the light off by mistake, and then the light gets switched on, but it feels really natural. Like this would just happen in a brawl. Scott Steiner just at one point pushes a female cop.
Yeah.
He just grabs her and pushes her because he's Scott Steiner.
It feels like an actual ruck because, like you said, in real fights as well. This is the problem with modern wrestling of all sorts, not just WWE. AEW is guilty of it as well. Everything is too. You think about everything too hard. In a real fight, not everything looks crisp. There are moments when people
will trip over and stuff. Yeah,
wandering around. Yeah. There are moments when there's like two guys just kicking the crap out of another guy, and like, you know what I mean? Like there are, it is just chaotic, and
yeah,
like, you know, like you see in this, like there's a moment when you know, like Stevie Ray comes up behind Sting, and he just turns around and manages to block a punch and hit him.
That moment, right? I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot about that. There's a moment where Sting's fighting someone, and Stevie Ray turns Sting around to swing at him. I think Sting has the greatest blocked punch in wrestling.
Yeah.
He's not good at blocking baseball bats.
Well, Sting was supposed to stop the bat. He didn't have his hands together. They were apart. So the bat went right down between his hands and hit him right on the head. And his head exploded. Blood was shooting everywhere. He had to get 20 stitches in his head. And I was like, fudge.
I'm sure you were.
I thought I knocked him out. I mean, his head, it had a loud clunk, like it was really loud.
But yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because that was such a good moment where Stevie Ray proper swings at him and he blocks it right at the last second and carries on.
Yeah.
It looked really real.
I quite like the fact that when Giant run in, they actually went, "Oh, the Giant's here," and I thought, "Oh, that's cool. You should make a big deal about that. If
yeah.
Involved in this, that should be mentioned specifically."
Yeah.
Another little thing. Now I quite like. I've just been saying about how it's great, about how it's all chaotic and stuff like that. Why the fuck is Buff Bagwell wearing red in this? It's really annoying. He shouldn't be allowed to do that. Like that's a really obvious thing where it's like, look, man, that we have a color thing going. Like it's a theme. You know what I mean? Like let's not fuck it. I know it's meant to be like, oh, he's just got here. Where then make Buff Bagwell a character that only wears white baseball caps instead of red ones. Like, don't wear red.
And the red plaid shirt. Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah.
That was just annoying because it was just thoughtless and it's like obvious. Like it's like someone surely if I was the producer of this show, as soon as he walked on screen, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like immediately I'd be like, who the hell let this happen?
Or just someone, even just a little thing of like, take off the hat and you just wear your trousers.
Yeah.
Like it's all right. You can just be topless. You're a wrestler. But yeah, so Nash and Conan come back into it, beat up Steiner and Bagwell, and it carries on with Sting. Sting's looking for someone. Who's looking for? We think he's looking for Bret Hart. And again, he doesn't go to the first door. He opens a couple of doors, looks around, and then opens a door, and you just see Sting rush in, and there's Bret Hart sitting there.
Got him! Bret Hart! Oh, would you listen to those right hands? What a fight!
And these punches that Sting hits Bret Hart with look like some. I mean, Bret Hart. This is Bret Hart as well. His selling of these punches. Sting hits him with like 3 punches, and Bret Hart flings himself back into the wall. It's like he's just been proper socked. He starts fighting back. He grabs his head, slams it into a door. Looks great.
Yeah. It
spills out into the corridor again, and I think at that point is when the security jump in the way and actually break people up, and then it cuts to a break, doesn't it? That was the first sort of 4.5 minute. First segment.
So it goes to commercial break, cuts back, and we're immediately back with the Wolf Pack, and we are now walking to the parking lot area.
Sting jumps on a forklift. What's Sting doing? And the crowd, you can hear the crowd reacting to all of this. Like, holy crap, he's on a freaking forklift. The commentator's doing a great job as well, selling this like, what the hell is Sting doing on a forklift? He grabs what is meant to be the NWO limousine, picks it up, throws it over, so it's on its back, lands on its roof.
Trying to destroy this limousine! He's picking it up!
Look at that! At least he didn't scratch it up with a key.
And Look on the other side.
Be careful.
Kevin Nash pounding it with a sledgehammer or some sort of device. Never before he's going to drop it. He's going to drop the. Oh my! Oh my goodness!
Takes care of that. 100,000.
The rest of the Wolfpack members suddenly appear with sledgehammers. Although, who was it? Nash. Yes, they all start hitting the car with sledgehammers. To which I think Tony Schiavone is the one that says,
Kevin Nash pounding it with a sledgehammer or some sort of device.
"What device would it be,
Some
Tony?
sort of device.
Some sort of device. It's a hammer. What the fuck are you talking about?" But yeah, so then the NWO the Wolfpack starts smashing all the windows out and just smashing the headlights out. I have to say, actually, when I was watching this, and obviously don't think I thought about it when I was watching it as a kid, but I was watching this thinking Sting's doing very well.
Yeah.
Using this
forklift. That's what I was going to say. I wonder if he's got a fucking forklift license or something because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, it was superb. Like, he picked it up, he lifted it right up, spun it over. So yeah, it was amazing.
I mean, even if he got a bit of a crash course, I wouldn't know. If someone said, "Here, Alex, here's a forklift, do that thing that he did," I'd be like, I don't have a fucking clue. I wouldn't know where to start.
And especially with right, cameras are rolling now, and you'd be like, "Oh, well, what button was it?" Oh god, you know what I mean?
So he gets it up, and the image is brilliant. And because it's all still the one shot, it's just the guy aiming up, and it looks like it's a million miles in the air. This fucking car, and it starts teetering forward. But before it gets to its actual peak, Kevin Nash runs around that side of the thing. You've got a professional wrestler in this thing who is in complete control of whether or not this car suddenly falls. And Kevin Nash thinks that it's a good idea to run around that side of the car where it's going to fall and start hitting it with the hammer, right? And you hear Bobby Heenan say,
Be careful.
I don't think he's commentating. I think he's just speaking, like, you know what I mean? I think he's just
genuinely be careful, Nash.
just be careful. Like, I don't really. But can you imagine, like, you look at the 90s and all the awful, like, crazy shit that happened, like, and like the massive lack of health and safety in comparison to now. Can you imagine that? Kevin Nash wouldn't be doing a podcast now because he's never been forgotten as the man who was crushed by a falling limousine on Monday Nitro. Like, it's so dangerous the way I saw him and I went, "Fuck off, get out of the way, cunt." But yeah, that was mental. And then so he then drops the limo and they all then start just smashing the shit out of it. Sting decides he wants to cut the tires, which seems a bit redundant now that the whole thing's upside down. I don't know that that's necessarily like essential, but even
but it was a nice. It was a nice visual. Yeah.
He says, "Hey, Kev, hey, sexy."
Yeah. Knife.
Virtually a symbol of Hollywood Hogan. Of NWO Hollywood, the arrival of the limousine.
Sexy. Hey, knife. Hey, knife.
Maybe it's just a different culture. Like, if I was out in the street and someone said to me, "Excuse me, mate," and and they went, "You got a knife I can borrow?" I'd go, "No, you fucking maniac. Why would I be carrying around a knife?"
It is a bit kind of, I mean, especially in the US, if someone suddenly went, "Hey, 7 foot tall, 300-pound guy, pass me your knife," he's getting tasered at minimum. You know what I mean? Like, all these cops standing around. No, they're pulling out their guns. As soon as this guy says, "Yeah, let me just give you my..." Well, before then, even where our sledgehammers. No, they're all getting put down.
Knife.
Obviously, last week, the Wolfpack got absolutely destroyed. And this is their kind of retribution week. But it's very much kind of, the old thing of like gangs where, like, yeah, you put one of ours in the hospital, we put one of yours in the morgue kind of thing. Yeah. It felt like that. Like, you did this last week to us, we'll get you back this week. This whole segment is one of the best wrestling segments of all time.
100%. It's one of the things that I will always, if someone said to me, "Oh, can you tell me about a show that you saw that makes you a wrestling fan today?" this is one of those things that I saw when I was a kid that like impacted me, that I saw that I was like, this is one of the most amazing things I have ever seen. Like it really had an impact on me watching it as a youngster. One of the like we were saying about the Flair return, you know, the Horseman return.
Yep.
In one of the top 5, top 10. This is top 5 for me. Top 5
Yeah, I agree.
of all time.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think both of these guys are probably quite good in the ring. They didn't really get to show it because they didn't have enough time. Hector Garza, I quite like Hector Garza's music.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find things to say about this.
I thought Hector Garza, he looked pretty good in terms of his moves and the way he moved and all that stuff.
Yes, no, he did look very good.
Damien looks like a great Muto cosplayer.
Yeah.
But like without a budget.
Yeah.
But not like a good cosplayer. He looks he looks awful. But yeah, the match doesn't last very long because out comes Eddie Guerrero, which it's always nice to see Eddie Guerrero. But then as soon as he come out, I realised what was about to happen. And I don't like the LWO. So I wasn't thrilled. Guerrero comes out and he basically starts doing a promo saying we shouldn't be fighting. No one likes Eric Bischoff. But he basically says we should start the LWO, which is the NWO but Latino, which just feels cheap and rubbish. Just keep in mind, by the way, the NWO's first 3 recruits were Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. The first 3 recruits to the LWO are Eddie Guerrero, okay, Damien and Hector Garza. If he'd have come out between a match between Rey Mysterio and Juventus, I'd have gone, okay, it's still just 3 cruiserweights against, you know, it still is a mismatch. There still isn't a main event group, but at least I go, oh, these are 3 of the best Latinos. Fair enough. Hector Garza and Damien, well, these are the first 2 guys. You're like, yeah, here we go. Bizarre.
No, I agree, mate. It's another problem with it is that I think at this point he's trying to be a babyface because he's going up against Eric Bischoff and he's like going fuck Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff and that, and everyone's just like fuck you, Eddie.
So people cheered when Eddie come out, and I think he did get some people sort of going Eddie. But as soon as he started ranting about this, he lost people. They didn't give a shit. And then as soon as I'm sure I heard, I might be wrong, I'm sure when he unveiled the LWO t-shirts, there were audible groans.
I want you guys to join me, man. LWO, Latino World Order. Together we can do this. We can go against you. You want to be part of the clan? You want to be together? Put these on, boys. And follow me.
There's a little, so after that LWO thing, it goes back to the Wolfpack outside. It isn't the best thing to do because immediately you've just reminded everyone that the LWO are really uncool because here are the real deal. But basically, it's Sting walks off into the building, I believe, and it's basically Nash, Luger, and Conan all saying they're going to go off and try and find Scott Hall. Nash says he's going to be in there are 4 or 5 bars he's going to be in. He knows them all, so they're just going to drive around and find them, which sets up the kind of next ongoing through thing where they're going to attack, basically go after the NWO for the night. But Mike Tenay, again, we praised him, I think, on the first episode where he was like the on-the-ground reporter trying to find Ric Flair, where he's like, we're going to follow the Wolfpack and see where they go and try and see if they find Scott Hall. And he's like Mike Tenay, the in the car, on-the-ground reporter trying to keep and, you know, it's kind of like the Wolfpack are very much like, no, we don't want you to see this. We're just going to go and do this thing. And so Mike Tenay's like, well, we're going to take a camera and try and follow you then. Which was great, and this was a nice little through moment for the next hour of programming.
Cruiserweight title match, Psychosis versus Billy Kidman. Billy Kidman at this point, on October 5th, 1998, Billy Kidman is so fucking over. He came out and I was like, wow. You know, like that is amazing. Like he was a star.
Yeah, his rise has been pretty remarkable.
Yeah,
and incredibly organic as well. Like he's got his position in the company where he comes out, and he's been the workhorse. Like in terms of the episodes we've reviewed, he's been the workhorse. He's come out every single week and put on a great match. He's getting super over. I think the only thing with Billy Kidman is his promos aren't great. But then he hasn't had a chance. He hasn't had to do a promo yet, so that's not really a problem. We haven't encountered that. But in terms of like knowing who he is, he's not got a great promo on it.
Psychosis gets a chance tonight to become WCW Cruiserweight Champ. A title that's been held by many great stars, one of them right now, Kidman. And Kidman gets a well-deserved standing ovation here from the fans.
Second time we've seen Psychosis, isn't it? We didn't really talk about him much last time against the Cat. He just kind of come out and we went, "Oh, here's Psychosis," and we didn't really talk about him very much.
No, I think we might have spoke about him a little bit, but nothing. We didn't say anything substantial. He's actually one of my favorite cruiserweights.
Cruiserweights, yeah, me too. Yeah,
he's up there with La Parka.
He's one of those guys for me when we talk about the cruiserweight division and why it's such a good division. And what I keep harping on about in right now, you have this real, in the same way that like the heavyweights, you have the heavyweight, like people who are the heavyweight champions. Then you have the people who are kind of could challenge for it, but probably wouldn't win it. Then you have the people who are just there to mid card, and then you have the jobbers. Like you have a real, you can see the differentiation, and you have that with the cruiserweights. You look at Psychosis; he's the guy who you probably wouldn't have the title on, but you could challenge for it, and you'd be, what I mean, you wouldn't. If he did win it, you'd probably be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine." But yeah, this was a good match. I like this match.
Dare I say Kidman's best match since Juventud Guerrera when he won the belt in terms of an actual in-ring match?
In terms of in-ring match, it was better than his disco match that was more gimmicky, and it was better than the Scott Hall match that was obviously the story there was heavyweight, cruiserweight. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the match started off, it was okay, decent. I was quite pleased the way quite near the beginning of the match, there's a slight botch. They sort of run into each other and there's a miscommunication or a mistiming, and they sort of spin and they don't really know what they're doing. And Kidman, instead of just standing there, just grabs it. The Kidman never does a T-bone suplex. It is not one of his moves. And he just grabs him and T-bone suplexes him. I was like, good on you, man. Well done. Like, it's just like it was a mistake. You obviously were like, uh-oh, fuck, something's gone wrong. And just grab the guy and do something. Just do something by yourself a minute. And you get back on track. I hate it when people just stand there looking at each other.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the worst thing in wrestling, where you have two guys maybe like bouncing off the ropes or doing something that goes wrong and they just stand there? Yeah. And it's like you're meant to be having a fight, you're trying to win, and they just you have this in wrestling where they just sort of stand there, both realizing they don't know what to do, hoping the other guy does something, and no one does, and it just, oh, okay, you guys are messed up, and now everyone knows it's fake. Here, they mess up, and they just go, well, I'm standing next to you, suplex.
So Psychosis, after Billy Kidman gets the shine for the first few minutes, gets the momentum with a gourd buster, and then Heenan and Larry Zbyszko criticize him for wasting time because he's too busy running around like an airplane to make the cover. And they're like, what are you doing? You could have had him there. Like, that was a great move. And then they both just start slagging off referees like really harshly.
Yeah.
Like just cussing referees out in general.
Yeah.
And Tony Schiavone's like, you can't say that. That's an awful thing to say about our officials here at WWE. He goes, have you ever been in the ring with him? And he's like, no. He goes, shut up.
I did. I wrote exactly the same thing. I did enjoy this little moment where Zbyszko as a former wrestler and Heenan as a former wrestler and then mainly manager both just go, God, refs are shit. And as like a football fan in 2024, all you have is people slagging off referees.
Well, you're not going to win any gold talking to the referee. You better get on Kidman if you want it, Psychosis. You're not going to make any sense talking to a referee either. No, you're right about that, Larry.
Boy, man, give the referees a break here, guys.
You've never been in there with them.
No, of course I haven't, but I know the ones we have work pretty darn hard.
You know, you're right. We should give them a break. Around the neck. In the mouth.
I am glasses.
You want to add on to this, Brain, before we go any further?
CNI dog, white cane, whatever you like.
And this was a very much a doesn't matter what sport it is. People are like fucking referees, and then yeah, Tony Schiavone has to cut in and he says, "Give him a break, guys. Just give him a break." At one point, Psychosis does a hip toss to the outside, and it looks horrible. Like as in brutal, like, it looks really painful and brutal. Yeah, and then he follows it up with a guillotine leg drop to the outside, which is actually his finisher, isn't it?
That's mental.
It'd be incredibly painful. Yeah,
Oh,
I agree.
it's madness. When I saw him do it, I was like, that is fucking mad.
Yeah, yeah.
Psychosis hits a lovely top rope spin wheel kick to the back of Kidman's head that looks fucking brutal.
It does, and specifically, I made a note of that because Tony Schiavone calls it a
flying body attack.
That's almost as good as my top rope whack. It's just, it's clearly a spinning head. It's clearly a spinning heel kick.
One interview with the Warrior. That's going to be interesting to see what he has to say about Hollywood Hogan. A top rope flying body attack that time.
This match kind of it kind of just evolves into a taking it in turns to do cool moves and getting near falls on each other, and it was quite cool.
You know what I love? Having said that, you know what I loved about this? Tony Schiavone's commentary, because he says,
shoulders up. Psychosis has had some spectacular moves, but these covers have not been good, Larry. They've not been fundamentally sound.
Now again, he's rushing into it too fast, hitting a nice move, just throwing his body on Kidman.
So Tony Schiavone is saying he's hitting all these big moves. He should be winning this, but then his covers are crap. And I'm like, isn't that I like for someone who like in modern wrestling, you'll hit a ridiculous move that should be a finish, and then somehow someone kicks out. In this, you kind of go, "Oh yeah, that should win the match because that's a badass move." And the commentator's covering up by going, "That is a great move, but he's not like you still need to hold the guy's shoulders down for 3 seconds." And you're like, "Great, Tony, love it, mate, fantastic."
Like I said, it goes into sort of this back and forth series of moves where they basically go, you do one to me, I do one to you. So it goes, Billy Kidman will hit the face buster out of the power bomb counter, the standard Billy Kidman move. Then Psychosis hits a standing Hurricane Rana, nearly necks himself, but it was okay. Managed to roll through. Billy Kidman hits his bulldog out the corner, that gets a 2. Tilt-a-whirl slam by Psychosis, which is really nice, gets a 2. Billy Kidman hits the sit-out power bomb. And gets a 2. Then Psychosis manages to counter somehow, hits a moonsault off the top rope, gets a 2. This was a really fun match, and the fans were really into it. And then the last spot of the match, I really thought was nice. He puts Billy Kidman up on the top rope to hit a Hurricane Rana, goes to the Hurricane Rana, but Billy Kidman holds on. Psychosis nearly dies, falling off the top rope as he falls headfirst towards the earth and smashes directly into the ground. But he obviously isn't dead because he then sort of slightly shuffles sideways to get into position for the shooting star press, and then Billy Kidman hits his finish and wins, and the fans go crazy because Billy Kidman's mega over, and it was a fun little match.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing bad to say about this match, really. It was fun, it was entertaining, it was what you'd want it to be.
So, the next thing was an Ultimate Warrior edited promo because he can't be trusted with a microphone out in the ring because he makes no sense. So I think what they've done is probably allowed him to speak for about 7.5 hours.
Yeah.
And edited it all together into like the pieces that made vague amounts of sense. I thought this was atrocious and achieved nothing and was a waste of airtime. I don't think he said anything new that we didn't already know. I didn't think it was particularly compelling, or I didn't think it was particularly well shot. So I was kind of like, this is a waste of time all round. I have nothing positive to say about it. Again, they talk about WrestleMania a lot without saying the word WrestleMania, and I want to go, please stop doing that. Just focus on this match. Stop talking about 75,000. Stop talking about that. You're making the
Yeah.
WWE seem really good, and you guys seem fucking bush league. Stop doing that.
Yeah. I
That's all I have
did
to say, by the way, because I don't like this. I think it's
know.
shite. So yeah, carry on.
When he first turned up on the screen, and I went, "Oh, they're doing a backstage promo for her now." Isn't it? It's incredibly obvious that they're just like, we can't have this guy go out in the ring and do a promo for 20 minutes. So we're just going to do. And then what I laughed at the most, because you're right, I can't even remember anything he says here, apart from. No, I genuinely can't remember anything. There's nothing of real note or anything. But and then it fades out, and then more of it appears, and I was like, oh, they've clearly just edited it where they've said talk for however long you want, and then they've gone, let's just splice it together afterwards. The only thing I've got to say about this, right, because I was watching this one afternoon while my kids were running around doing their thing in the house, and I was watching this promo, and then I just hear my daughter from behind me go, "He doesn't sound like a very good lawyer." And I went, "What?" And she went, he doesn't sound like a very good lawyer. He keeps saying about the lawyers, but and I realized that every time he was saying about the Warriors, she was thinking he was the ultimate lawyer.
That's so good.
And I just like the idea that she's suddenly like, I would not want this man representing me, even at her age.
Objection!
She was like, I laughed at that, and I was like, no, he's the Ultimate Warrior, honey. And she went, oh, okay, that's fair enough, and off she went. But yeah, that was the only positive I got to say about this. I like the idea that in court.
Objection, Your Honor.
I would like to approach the bench from the midst of the darkness, from which we will, Mr. Warrior, please. Listen to me, lawyers. No.
Right at the start, they go, oh, Mr. Warrior, your opening statement. He just stands up, slams his hands down on the desk, and the judge goes, oh, Christ.
In the depths of time, I have come.
He's still screaming.
We are all lawyers here. You must understand, Hogan. For the last time, Mr. Warrior, Hogan is not in this case. So it's a Scott Steiner promo where he's just telling everyone how bad Rick Steiner is and how great he is. But again, it's still edited. So clearly, I think they just went, just go into a room for 20 minutes and unload on your brother, because it's just him criticizing Rick Steiner, saying he's crap. At one point, they did a really good edit where they talk about him, Rick Steiner, riding on Scott's back for all these years, and they have the cutout of Rick Steiner put like superimposed onto Scott Steiner's back as he's saying this, which I thought was brilliant.
And it fits perfectly as well. It's exactly the same shape as his back.
Yeah, it fits perfectly to the shape of his body. And he just starts going all the trophies he's won. Like, this is the Crockett Cup.
This trophy right here, Wrestler of the Year, State Champion.
And the one that got me was when it was clearly, obviously, yeah, I'm guessing it must have been a trophy they both won for like amateur wrestling or something, because he's going through everything going, you haven't won this trophy, you ain't won that trophy, this is mine. And then he goes,
you have one like this also at home.
I mean, I really enjoyed it. Like when he was talking about the Steiner brothers and that. And then as well, they had like, they kept having clips of Rick Steiner getting clotheslined.
Weak link in the chain.
Yeah.
And then it would be Scott Steiner doing like Frankensteiners and stuff. And he's like, and then I tag you in at the end so you can get your 3 seconds of glory standing next to me.
Yeah. This, I mean, I've always loved the Steiner brothers as a tag team and all that, but my God, this is peak Scott Steiner. He hits it perfectly. He's the perfect mix. Actually, he plays like he plays Snivelly Hill here. Like, this whole thing is about him trying to avoid this fight. How can a guy that looks like Scott Steiner be so dominant against Carew? No, that's why it works. He's winning handicap matches. He looks like the strongest guy in the world, and despite that, he's still like, "Oh God, I don't want to fight my brother." It works so well. But then as soon as he's not there, he's like, "Yeah, I carried you." And it worked. It is so perfect, so perfect. And this promo is just brilliant.
And the Papa Pump. I know a lot of people go, oh, when he was in the Steiner Brothers, he was so athletic and stuff. I would trade 1,000 standing Frankensteiners for Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump any day. He
I
is
agree.
so entertaining in everything that he does. He's always entertaining all the time. Once you get into the 90s, Big Papa Pump, Jesus, man, that guy was a fucking megastar. The fact that Scott Steiner was not WCW World Heavyweight Champion long before he was is a travesty. And if he had been, he could have that company. It could have been different. I think that would have generated enough interest.
Yeah, I've always said the time I would have put the belt on him was when they did and I'm sure we might get to it one day, the New Blood, where they stripped everyone of the titles.
Yeah.
And they put the US title on Steiner and the world title on Jarrett, and it was just the wrong way around. Jarrett should have been because Jarrett gave up the US title. He should have won the title. He should have won the title back again. That US title, I think that would have worked perfectly. But then Steiner should have been your world champion.
Yeah,
it would have been because he was still great at that point. But yeah, this is a great promo, and it leads into probably my favorite segment of the night.
Wait, hold the phone here. We are scheduled, at least on my sheet, it was Brian Adams and Rick Steiner scheduled for a matchup. I was not aware that Buff and Scott Steiner had an interview here. We're going to come to the ring. We've already heard from Scott Steiner. Why do we need to see him again?
NWO music hits. Crowd livens up immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bagwell and Steiner come out, and I liven up too. These guys are so good. These guys are just so entertaining in everything they goddamn do. And this segment only helps them because it's magic all the way through.
Yeah.
The first thing I've written here, so they just come out. It's Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell. You know what you're expecting here. They've been money for the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Schiavone says,
incredible how low they will go.
Which is a perfectly fine statement on its own. And then Larry Zbyszko adds,
for the dough.
And I don't know what he means. Like, I know they do stuff for money, but like it's like he wanted to just throw a little rhyme in there or something.
Rhyme, yeah.
It didn't really add anything to it, but yeah, that was odd. The great thing about Scott Steiner with how much we're entertained by him right now and how much we love him as a heel, he is actively disliked, right? People are booing him. They do not like him, or it's one of those things with heels, isn't it? You start enjoying them as bad guys, and then you want to see him as a good guy.
Yeah.
But Scott Steiner is still actively disliked. People do not like him, even when he's, as entertaining as he is. He's getting a lot of heat.
I'm Halloween Havoc, and I'm gonna put the dog-faced gremlin's tail between his legs, and I'm gonna run him right out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
They start saying their generic stuff. They don't say anything particularly new or interesting for what I can. Nothing jumped out at me because they're not out there for that long before Rick Steiner comes out to interrupt them. Right? He gets a decent little pop, and with him, he introduces future WCW Tag Team Champion Judy Bagwell.
Yeah,
legitimately Buff's mum. Now, the first point I want to make is in kayfabe, Rick Steiner's a bitch, right?
I got your mom!
What I will say about this, right, is that my initial reaction was because here's the thing, kayfabe-wise, Rick Steiner's a bitch.
Yeah.
He keeps getting his ass handed to him, he keeps getting tricked because he's an idiot, and he goes and gets the guy's mum, right? Bitch move. However, by the end of the segment, I was like, actually, Rick Steiner's a genius. and he's like 4 steps ahead, and actually this is like psychological warfare now. So he won me over, but my initial reaction was, oh God, he's got his mum. And I'll be honest, when he got Judy to come out, my initial reaction was, oh, this is going to be a crap segment. Like, it's not going to be. And what I meant was it'd probably be entertaining. We'd probably have a bit of a laugh about it. It'd be crap. I thought this was great.
Can I just say, right? This WCW being WCW made this segment better than the WWE couldn't have done this segment like this.
No, I agree. 100%.
Judy Bagwell is just some old woman, and they
Yeah.
sent her out there with a live mic. They had no idea what they were going to get, right? And it was a
That's
bit screech. You know what?
They clearly hadn't said to her, "Hold the mic like this."
No prep, but because of that, it was real. It was real. Like, it really felt real, and the way she was screaming, and there was no, like, she was like, you know, all her words were slurring together and that because she was fucking screaming. It felt like really like a mum telling off an adult son, like really having a guy lost their rag with him big time, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I was like, it really felt real.
Well, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing.
So real.
But no, you're 100% right. The WWE or even probably AEW now would go, right, let's script this out, let's get an actor, we'll play it, we'll really make sure you know. But because they were just like, just go out and do it, which probably is kind of incompetent of them to do.
It could have been a fucking train wreck and could have blown up in their faces big time and been an embarrassment.
Yeah.
But
it was great.
I have to say, I know that she got big for her boots, and I know that they gave her the belt, and I know all this terrible stuff happened, right? But she does have a natural charisma, Judy Bagwell, and I tell you what, right? The crowd was so fucking into Judy Bagwell. It's amazing.
Judy Bagwell comes out, and Rick Steiner gives her the mic, and Judy Bagwell, as we've said, it's just her yelling at Buff Bagwell. It's clearly not been. She must have had like an idea of the stuff she was saying, but really, it's just raw emotion.
Several months ago, you lay paralyzed while me and your dad were at home, wondering if you could walk again. What's wrong with you? We went to the hospital with you. We sat by you for weeks and weeks and weeks.
And the more she was doing it, the more I was getting into it. And the crowd was super into it as well. This is the thing. I think any other heel in this company, if you'd have said you're going to get the mum to come out and yell at them, it wouldn't have worked at all. Steiner, Hogan, Scott Hall, anyone, it just wouldn't have worked at all. But Buff Bagwell being like torn down by his mum in front of a crowd, it works so well. It works so well. And the stuff she was saying was really good. Like, it actually gave a bit of nuance to the fact of what he's doing, right? It's like, how could, it's not Rick Steiner's fault. Yeah, he broke your neck. It was an accident. He didn't mean to do it. Why are you doing this to him? Why are you? And so it was like, it made me sit back and go, actually, yeah, this is kind of it. Like, he obviously holds a grudge against Rick Steiner that he broke his neck. And so when he's doing all this faking and stuff, it actually is, like, you must have a bit of a grudge against him. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And then she was saying about, when you're in the hospital, all these fans were writing to you, wishing you better, and you're just like, that means nothing to you? That all these fans were writing to you, wishing you well, and you're just, it was so good. And she's yelling at Buff, and he's just standing there, taking it all, and the crowd are loving it.
Several months ago, you lay paralyzed while me and your dad were at home, wondering if you could walk again. What's wrong with you?
I was amazed by the reaction of the crowd.
I was ready. I was waiting for the crowd to just be sitting there in silence or to start shitting on it. No, they were thrilled. And in fact, so it carries on. She's ranting for about a minute, maybe. She's approaching him and stuff. She's standing on the ring apron. And then Buff grabs the mic and goes, "No, I'm done. I'm going to talk to you." And he starts giving it back to her a bit. At which point, Judy Bagwell steps through the ropes.
Oh my God.
I support the whole family.
The crowd lose it because the mums just steps through the ropes and he's like, I'm not taking this from you.
I was gobsmacked by the fucking reaction of her stepping through the ropes, getting into the
Yeah,
ring. They
just
went
stepping through the
fucking
ropes
mad.
to confront her son. It was amazing. And then obviously you do the thing where he keeps talking. And so what does the mum do? She gives him a slap. And the crowd again lose it.
I believe what you said.
Yep.
They love this. And it wouldn't have worked for any other wrestler. And if you'd have just, I'd say, if you had described this segment to me, if you'd have just said, this is what the segment's going to happen, like very, nonchalant, whatever, without even the emotion of it all, I'd have been like, oh, this sounds like ain't going to work. But I can see this not working at all. But somehow it works perfectly. So yeah, Judy Bagwell slaps Buff, big reaction. And then Scott Steiner steps in.
Scott Steiner's fucking
And
amazing.
immediately grabs Judy Bagwell. I think like grabs her wrist or something. Oh no, or does she? No,
she
goes
squares up to him.
No, sorry, she squares up to Steiner. Sorry, and then Steiner just goes,
Hey, woman, you ain't my mother. Get out of my face.
and he starts like he would have knocked her out, like in kayfabe, he would have knocked her out there and then. But obviously Rick Steiner gets involved and fights off Scott.
Then Judy Bagwell walking Buff down back up the aisle by his ear. Crowd were fucking losing it, man. They were going fucking mental.
It was superb.
But there's his brother.
She's dragging Bagwell off by the ear.
Right by the ear.
He's grounded. She's taking him home. Can you imagine if he used wire hangers?
Oh, yeah, look at this. Are we loving this or what? Mom is in charge as always.
There's Big Mama Pump.
It was this segment, 10 out of 10. Shouldn't have worked. Somehow did. I loved it. Every single moment of this, I thought it was great. It goes to a break and it comes back, and the match was meant to be Bryan Adams against Rick Steiner. During the break, Scott Steiner and Bryan Adams have beaten up Rick Steiner, and the match is ongoing as we go in. So it's Bryan Adams against Rick Steiner in a perfectly decent match. There's not a lot to say about it. It's mainly Bryan Adams being dominant for the whole thing,
which is a problem because he got really terrible looking offense.
Yeah, he does, but he's
a really boring wrestler.
Yeah, he is, but again, this is what you need him for. He's a big, burly wrestler who can lose to people like Rick Steiner. This is why I'm confused about why he couldn't have just lost to Kevin Nash last week. I like how Scott Steiner's out there and JJ gets rid of Scott Steiner. He tells him to sod off and he does. He gets a little decent reaction, but that's basically it. Bryan Adams does a crap pile driver. He then does like a heart grip thing where he's kind of holding Rick Steiner's heart. What I did laugh about this, right? So there's a moment where he hits Rick Steiner onto the floor and then he goes for a knee drop, right? A little running knee drop. He misses it and then he stands up and he does a little kind of annoyed toddler pose. Go and watch this, right? He misses the knee drop, stands up, and then he kind of clenches his fists and kind of goes. It's really subtle, right? But you could watch what he does, and it's very much like a little annoyed toddler who goes like, mm! It's just a tiny thing, but it was it made me laugh. He bounces him off the ropes. Rick Steiner muscles him over and hits a belly to belly face back slam. It's not. It's a suplex, but I mean, he just muscles him over and slams him to the floor.
Right. So what this is, a couple of podcasts ago, we talked about this in the Steiner match where he fights Rick Fuller, and it's the move where it's always done where he catches him out of a leapfrog, right? He catches him out of a leapfrog, and he's a sort of like a half between a suplex and a back body drop. And it's kind of like the momentum of him running into their legs is kind of what flips them over, if that makes sense. And he just kind of guides them down. this is that, but Brian Adams doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He does not know how he's meant to bump for this. And that's why he lands on his face. So he gets thrown up in the air and he nearly dies. But that's because he doesn't know how to bump for this move. And he should have said to Rick Steiner, "I don't know how to bump for this move."
Yeah. Can we just do a backdrop?
Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And then so Rick Steiner hits that looks brutal.
It's
and then he hits his top rope bulldog, pins Brian Adams.
Yeah.
Rick Steiner looks like a beast here because he's just been beaten up by Scott Steiner and Brian Adams, and he still wins the match.
Yeah. They're actually pushing Rick Steiner quite hard here. I mean, they're making him look like a fucking moron, but they're also making him look like a killer.
This is the Wolfpack first segment where they turn up at a bar looking for Scott Hall. Nothing happens. They turn up, they look for him, he's not there, they leave. That's it. But it's only about a minute long. But they're looking for Scott Hall, he's not there, can't find him, they carry on. The search continues. Fine.
The biggest icon in wrestling.
The NWO music hits. This is only a little minor thing. NWO music hits. Hogan and Bischoff come out, and I was genuinely excited.
Okay.
Genuinely, I didn't. If you'd have told me at episode 1 that I'd be most looking forward to one of these segments with Bischoff and Hogan, I wouldn't have believed you. But genuinely, when I saw it was them coming out, I was like, "Oh, excellent! I'm going to be entertained," and I sat forward.
I always felt like I really hated Hogan, like in WCW. I my memory was I fucking hated him and I just wanted him gone.
Yeah.
And now I look at it for however long later, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy's fucking awesome. But having said that, this wasn't one of his best promos.
It wasn't. No,
I thought
my excitement didn't last long.
No, it was pretty short, which is probably to its benefit. It was pretty short and sweet and to the point. He didn't have anything to say really. The only thing that I wrote down that just because of last week was he refers to himself as Wood again and the Woodster.
He does. Yes, he
the
does.
Woodster. That's the only part of the promo that my ears pricked up. The rest of it was pretty generic. But I will say this: the only thing when he knelt down at the end of the promo and did the double bicep pose, he looked fucking awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, there's not a huge amount here, like you said. Yeah, I was my ears did. It was just kind of a generic promo, Hogan promo, and then my ears did prick up when he started doing the impression of the Warrior when you're in the ring and I've beaten you and you're begging. He's like, "Please, Wood, please, Woodster."
And as he drops to his knees in the middle of the ring at Halloween Havoc and says, "Please, Wood, please, Woodster, don't beat me anymore." That's when I'm gonna take the paint, rub it off his face, expose him for the true coward that he really is. And as I snap, crack, and break every bone in his skinny little body, I'm gonna prove to all my black and white Hollywood NWOites that yes, I am the god of wrestling.
The next segment was a Horseman promo, which was the same one we've seen before.
Promo? Oh, a promo package.
The promo package for the Horseman.
Yeah, sorry, yes,
kind of a modern day promo package trying to build them up. And all I've written after the Horseman promo is, "I await a cucking." Which actually doesn't happen this week, but I was very much sitting there going, "Yeah, okay, this promo's fine, but unless you show me why I should be excited about this, I'm just waiting for the Horsemen to be pussies again."
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, they've added a few different clips in. I quite like the fact that there's quite a few clips of like them being really violent. Like I do quite like these promo packages. The only thing I will say about them is, the bit at the beginning where it's like the horses. That bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's the build up, and it normally goes into the. do new new new, right? But now it goes into the and it kicks in when Ric Flair goes woo. The way they've cut it, Ric Flair doesn't say woo. He goes woohoo like Homer Simpson. And I can't not hear it anymore.
Give me a fat B!
Then the Nitro girls come out. They do a bit of a dance. Who's the hottest Nitro girl, and why is it Shay?
Shay.
It is, yeah. we don't have to go into a massive discussion about it. Everyone knows. Anyway, moving on. Next match.
Self high five.
Next match is Canyon versus DDP. I'm watching this on the WWE Network, so he has his crap theme, which is always depressing.
That's right. I'll be there from 10 till noon, so come on by, take a picture, talk about wrestling, talk about NWO, WCW, the old days, whatever you want. We're going to have a ball. Fort Wayne this Saturday.
Self high five.
Can we talk about Canyon? Because he's been here for a few weeks now. He's been sort of knocking about the program, but he's not really had a chance to wrestle because in the one match he was going to have, they broke someone's neck. But how good is Canyon?
Who better than Canyon?
Who better than Canyon? Also, can I just say when we're talking about that, so for anyone that doesn't know, who better than Canyon became a kind of a phrase that Canyon would ask the audience, and what everyone's meant to say is nobody. But the audience started saying everybody, and then he'd go, no, not everybody. You know, it was a great little skit. How fortunate is it that that happened? Like, it must have just been one of these things where the audience, you know, he wants everyone to say everybody. Like, he couldn't have primed them to say that.
I'll tell you what you can't. Right, no, you could easily do that. You could easily work them to say something like that. Like, say, for example, if you're on a Nitro, right? You could easily, you've got ad breaks and stuff like that. You're on house show, doing house show loops. You could easily have little bits where you come out and you do your who better than Canyon, and you do that. No one says anything, but you point at one guy, even if he didn't say anything in the front row, and go, "What did you say? Did you say everybody?" And then, like, you know, like you could easily, and then next time you say, you go, "Right, you bet, dude, if you say that again," and that, you know, and then of course next time you do it, more people are going to say it, and then all you have to do is you could easily work the crowds up to say that easy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is true.
Who's better than Canyon? No, nobody.
But yeah, how in terms of in-ring stuff, how good is Canyon? I know they called him the innovator of offense. He had lots of really good-looking moves. It's one of those things where,
mate, I tell you what as well, he's a fucking awesome bumper.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah.
He bumps like a madman.
Yeah. People always talk about Kurt Hennig as like the previous generation and sort of Dolph Ziggler as this one. Canyon's got to be up there for this kind of period of time.
Bro,
he's one of those guys who he's really good at like wrestling and like looking good in offense, but also the reason he will lose a lot is because he will make other people look amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Canyon deserves so much more love in terms of his wrestling, and it's one of those things with wrestling as well. Isn't it strange how if you just describe Canyon, he's just a bloke with greasy black hair and a beard, and he wears trousers. But there's something about him that makes you want to watch him, right? I mean, that's just the magic of wrestling, isn't it? There are some people who just you can't really explain it, but you go, this guy's got something about him. This guy's got a bit of charisma, the way they move, the way they, there's just something because when he came out, I just went, yeah, I want to watch this guy. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. There's just it's that X factor, it's that star power. And even like mid carders can have that kind of thing where I want to watch this guy lose than Jerry Flynn. You know what I mean? But he deserves more respect and gratitude. And go watch a Canyon match. He's really good. He's really good. But yes, Canyon versus DDP. When I saw this, I was like, this is going to be a good match.
Not only did I think it was very fun because both guys are very good, I liked the way this match was booked because DDP came out and for the first few minutes of the match, he was all over Canyon. He was really dominant in the early going. By the time he threw him outside and Lodi came out, it had pretty much been all DDP.
Yeah.
Then Page does the double crossbody over the top rope, and it's only when Raven comes in behind the ref's back and hits the diamond cutter. Yeah, and at that point, Canyon takes over a little bit. And yeah, all I can say is this: there were some very nice moves. Canyon, the ones that stick out in my mind, I haven't written them all down for this match. I sort of regret it. I should have written all the moves down like I did for the cruiserweight match. But the move that he hits that really sticks out to me is the sort of top rope Fameasser.
Yes.
It's a really nice
painful.
It looks really painful, but it looks great.
It looked great. I wonder if maybe it got a bit stiff with it because it did look painful.
But and DDP, can I just say, we're talking about Canyon's moveset. I love DDP's moveset. I mean, it's probably my favorite moveset in wrestling.
It's up there. It's definitely up there. He's got some good moves out there. He's got the spinning powerbomb, the flapjack, the spinning lariat.
The awesome backbreaker up onto the shoulder and then flip down into it's like a gut buster almost.
I like this match. I like the way at the beginning Canyon's on the ropes talking to the crowd, and DDP kind of hits it's more like a kind of a slamming schoolboy kind of thing instead of like a powerbomb off the middle rope. I suppose technically it would be like a kind of a powerbomb off the middle rope, but he just kind of schoolboys him off the middle rope into a big slam, almost pins him. Immediately goes for a second schoolboy. He kicks out again, but I did like that. I did like that opening. That was quite good. But yeah, DDP's in control of it until Raven hits the diamond cutter to him, I guess. DDP, you know what? We're talking about great moves DDP has. One of DDP's best moves, along with all his other moves, is after he's been beaten up in the corner and then he pulls himself out of it. Spins him around, pulls himself out, grabs him and throws him in the corner. That is peak DDP.
Yeah. So is that his second most important move after the diamond cutter then, as it so represents character?
I reckon. I would say so. I think his number 2 move is pulling himself out of the corner. If he never did, and I can't remember him ever doing this, if he never did a pull out of the corner straight into a diamond cutter, that's a missed opportunity. I read there's a sunset flip spot. Canyon hits a really nice spinning neck breaker.
Yes, I remember the spinning neck breaker specifically. It was very good.
It looked beautiful.
Yeah, Page took it really well as well.
Yeah, he did. He did. Anyway, DDP, I can't remember. I don't think he hits the diamond cutter. I think he hits just a generic move and goes for the pin. And Raven comes in to break up the pinfall. DQ finish. Canyon wins. I don't actually mind it being a DQ finish, to be honest. I think it works fine. Not every match has to be a clean finish on a weekly TV show. And Raven, Canyon, and Lodi start beating up DDP, and who comes out to make the save? It's Goldberg. He comes out, he spears Lodi.
No,
gets the jackhammer.
No.
Or was it who do
he spears Canyon. Canyon folds in half off this fucking spear.
Sorry, he spears Canyon.
And then I'm sure legitimately just punches Lodi in the face. As just after he jackhammers him, DDP hits the diamond cutter on Raven.
Yeah,
and
then they do that.
Back-to-back.
Yeah, and they do that great back-to-back spot. That's classic, isn't it? When you have two kind of face.
spot. Yeah, face spot. Yeah.
immediately security and JJ Dillon hit the ring, I think it is.
Like they just sort of shouted at each other, got fucking psyched up, and then they just walked separate ways and both posed. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I have to say, as a segment as a whole, the match was really good. Yes, it had a not a clean finish, but the angle that then followed it was so good. Who the hell cares what the finish of the match was?
Yep, completely agree. The next segment is the second Wolfpack segment.
Yeah.
Again, there's not a huge amount to say about this. They go into another bar. Scott Hall's not there. They leave. What I did like about this, particularly, was to a couple of things. One was Conan saying, "Do you think we should try the strip joints?" And Kevin, I can't remember if it was this. I think it was the same segment. Kevin Nash obviously doesn't hear it the first time because doesn't react. Conan obviously wants a reaction, so he asks him again.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Nash is like, no, because he won't be in a strip joint. He's been kicked out of them all or whatever. And then I also liked the fan reactions in this bar to the Wolfpack walking in. There's obviously a mixture of people who know wrestling and people who just don't have a clue, right? And they're just non-smart fans who have no idea who these people are. Because they walk in this bar and all the people at the bar, a lot of them are just staring at these three jacked guys walking in, and they're like, "What the fuck?" But then there's also a guy at the bar whose mouth immediately jaw drops, and you can see him obviously be like, "Holy shit, it's the Wolfpack!" In the bar. Like, you have a real nice mix of like fans who are clearly like, "Oh my god!" Like, I'm guessing they didn't tell them that they were going to do this. I wonder if they just went, "We're going to go in this bar and film and then walk back out." What the hell are they going to do? But yeah, look at these fan reactions at the bar. Really fun. Jesus Christ. So the Disciple comes out to not NWO music this week. It was just music, but it wasn't NWO music, so I'm guessing they fixed that from last week. There's nothing to say about this match, okay? Lenny Lane impersonates the Ultimate Warrior at the beginning that makes then the Disciple impersonate the Ultimate Warrior. But then Lenny Lane immediately jumps him when he does this. Like, the timing is so quick and like it's not playing to the crowd, so the crowd are just kind of, they can't keep up with like what, you know, they're meant to be reacting to. There's no reaction at all for anything, and then it ends with the Disciple hitting the Apocalypse, which is a mix between the Stone Cold Stunner and a Diamond Cutter. But clearly he doesn't have enough matches where he wins with this move. So Tony Schiavone says,
drives Lenny Lane down with a great move.
Driving Lenny Lane down with a great move. Because he doesn't know what it's called. Because clearly this guy hasn't been on TV winning matches with this move at all. There's no reaction to this match at all. No one cares. It's crap.
You shouldn't be using that move. Whatever. The match sucks balls. And then at the end of the match, which there's no, like, you've covered the match, which is fine. But at the end of the match, he cuts this promo about, "I'm done carrying your bags, Hollywood." It's the most generic, terribly cut, shitty promo ever. And he just walks off. But as he's getting out of the ring, Bobby the Brain Heenan, no, it's like the second after he stops talking, right? And it's like the most generic, boring, deathly boring promo ever. And then as he's getting out of the ring, Bobby the Brain Heenan goes,
"I'm my own man now and forever."
That's shocking.
I was like, that's got to be on purpose.
Yeah. You know what as well I wrote about this, because you're right, he picks up a microphone. Everyone hates this guy. Like, no one cares about the Disciple, right? But you're right, he makes this little promo that's really generic saying, "I'm my own man now, I'm done carrying your bags," right? Your gimmick is the Disciple. The Disciple. You can't be like, "I'm my own." Your gimmick is about following someone. And now you're being like, you're still called the Disciple. You need to call yourself something else, mate. If that your whole gimmick is based around following this guy around. You can't now just no, not anymore. Like right, so basically, Disciple goes to leave and he walks off, and actually Hogan and Bischoff appear out of nowhere, following him, and I was like, oh, good, because they've been looking for this guy, right? He turns into this room, they follow him in there, and he's gone, and they're like, saying, oh, the Disciple, we saw him walk in here, he's gone, right? Then Hogan looks around, he looks in the mirror. Now, I remember a couple of weeks ago when Disciple went missing and Hogan looked in a mirror like he could have disappeared in the mirror. And I thought how stupid that was. Maybe it wasn't, because Hogan looks in the mirror and in the mirror appears the Ultimate Warrior. Now, we have to have a bit of a discussion about this because Hogan can see the Warrior in the mirror, but Bischoff can't. Hogan has gone mad and he's seeing the Warrior. And this is all in his mind. But we can see him as the audience, right? And actually, I might even forgive that and say maybe Warrior's using some kind of... no, I can't. It doesn't make any sense. but maybe I could forgive that and go, okay, maybe I'm as the audience meant to... Maybe I'm just supposed to accept the fact that maybe I can see
symbolism. This is symbolism.
Yeah, maybe I can forget that. The problem is that I realised watching this, right, is that when, and actually I really think it's a cool image, right? The Warrior's just standing there, and then he starts like, he throws his head back and like laughs in this kind of really like, I mean, it's almost like a Final Fantasy, like, I was like Final Fantasy 7, you know, when like the characters kind of like, you had to really overemphasize their movements, right? So like you'd have a character laugh and they'd throw their head back and like move their shoulders at the same time. His Warrior's kind of doing that to really show he's like laughing, like guffawing at like Hogan. The problem is, you can hear him laughing. Yes, if you listen quietly, you can hear the Warrior actually laughing. So he's clearly in the next room. Which breaks the symbolism, because now I went, oh no, hang on, this doesn't make any sense, because he shouldn't be able to, if I shouldn't be able to see him if this is all in Hogan's mind. Oh, well, maybe I can just accept that this is meant to be symbolic, and, you know, I'm just seeing what Hogan's meant to be seeing. It's a bit stupid, but fine, I'll accept it. Oh no, wait, hang on, I can hear him laughing, which I shouldn't be able to do even if it's symbolic, which means he must be in the next room with a trick mirror, which doesn't make sense, does it? Very small margins we're dealing with here in terms of what I'll accept in wrestling. If I couldn't hear the laughter, I think I'd have been all right with this to some degree. But with the laughter, I just went no. But isn't this one of the most famous moments in wrestling history?
Yeah, and can I just say as well, right? For as it is shit.
Oh, it is shit, yeah.
Hogan's amazing.
Yes.
Hogan's performance is brilliant. He's such a cartoon character.
Yes.
What? Look at... He's in the wall. He's in the mirror.
Hollywood. Okay. Look at what? Take it easy, Warrior. Okay, brother. I know the rules. I get the number. You and Disciple. Just play the game. How mad I'm on the team. Oh, it's real funny. You think it's funny? What are you talking about? Look at the Warrior. Look at what? Laugh all you want. Look at what? Man, Hollywood. Laugh all you want, Warrior. It's real funny. You know what? The last laugh is going to be Warrior. Okay, he's right there, brother.
In Death of WCW, they talk about it. Is Hogan mad? But then we can see it, so maybe we're mad, or maybe we're all sane, but Bischoff is mad because he's the only one that can't see it. But then it disappears, but Hogan can still see it, but now we can't see it. So what the fuck is going on? Like, so
you're right. Yeah, you're right. It does disappear, and you can still see. He's still acting like you can see it after it. Yeah, that does. The next segment is the third bar. There isn't a huge amount to say about this either. Wolfpack go to the third bar. I don't know whose house this is.
Huh?
The outside of this bar, it's just like a house. On the inside, it looks like a bar. On the outside, it was bizarre. Anyway, the Wolfpack go in. What I liked about this as well, shot-wise, again, if it was just WWF or modern day wrestling, you'd have had either cameras already in there or nothing would have happened until the cameras were right in place. We could see every moment of action. The cameras follow the Wolfpack in there, and by the time the cameras are in there, Nash has already beaten the crap out of Scott Hall.
Yeah.
Which plays into the whole thing of they're not here, this isn't a TV show. They were just looking for this man to beat him up, and the cameras happened to be there. The crowd in there are going wild because they're wrestlers suddenly fighting in there. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall disappear into the toilet for about 90 seconds.
The way they did it, and I know it's like very guerrilla, and I like that part of it, but this is the problem when you're doing it like that and you haven't got the shots planned out and stuff. Like you said, it becomes strange and awkward at parts. So they're all having a fight. All the people are going fucking crazy. Then he takes them into the toilet. Then the door shuts, and Conan and Lex are kind of hovering, and it's like they don't really know what to do. Like they don't really know what's going on, and they're
it
sort of
seems like
hovering
the
there.
door. Yeah, and it seems like the door locks because Conan tries to push it open and it won't open.
Yeah. But it's like
So,
but even the people who are in the bar, it's like the noise sort of the crescendo of the noise sort of dies down, and it's like that, and it sort of it sort of gets hushed, like and then someone in the crowd will say something like whatever, and everyone will go yeah, and they'll sort of get excited again, but then it sort of died down again, and they were like oh man, and I was like, this feels like he's doing something awful to him, like what is going on in here? But I did actually like. One of the crowd, actually, it wasn't one of the Wolfpack, it was one of the crowd shouted out, "Hey, get that camera out of here. This is NWO business." And the cameraman actually started walking away.
Get the camera out, this NWO business.
And that's why about a second after that, as he starts walking away, the door opens and Kevin Nash goes, "Bring the camera in."
It was a bit with the whole build up to this, them just disappear into a cubicle for 90 seconds was a bit of a weird choice. Stylistically, it was a bit strange.
New world order.
Eric Bischoff comes out, and my first reaction was, "Oh God, I hope it's not a Horseman segment."
Yeah,
that was my first reaction.
Yeah,
and actually, this is probably the best one since they've come back, not included in their return. Bischoff comes out and he starts talking about, I can't even remember, generic slagging off things. Then Arn Anderson comes out. Arn Anderson here, Alex, is how old?
Oh, I have no idea.
I can tell you because I figured it out. How old, looking at him, do you say he was?
Right, he's gonna be. That's
impossible. Don't try and figure it out maths-wise.
I'll pluck a number out of the air. I would say he's 38 in this period of time.
Okay, how old does he look?
Like 49.
I would say 49, early 50s. At this age, he's actually 40, so you undershot it. You tried to overcorrect. He's 40 years old here. Jesus Christ. If you looked, I mean, Arn Anderson always, I mean, even when he's like in the 80s, like wrestling in the 80s, he looks like he's approaching 40.
Yeah.
Here he looks like he's approaching, he's like 50, pushing it on. Just out of interest, I did a little bit of number crunching. Arn Anderson is 40 years old here. Sting is 39. Luger is 40. And Kevin Nash is 39.
Mm-hmm.
All in the same age. Modern day wrestlers, AJ Styles is 46. Roman Reigns is 38. John Cena's 46. Randy Orton's 43. What genetics has Arn Anderson got that he looks like this at 40? Ludicrous. Anyway, enough of that. Arn Anderson comes out, and with him he brings a little boy. Sorry. He brings out a child with him. This is basically Like, it's almost like someone had a really good idea for a segment where someone from the NWO gets schooled by someone they shouldn't get schooled by, like a mother or a child. And they went, that's a really good idea. It's so good, let's do it twice. Because this is Ric Flair's son, Reed Flair, who won. He's the one that obviously won the national championships to get Flair sacked last time, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, Flair got sacked initially from WCW a year ago or whatever, because instead of going to a show, he went to his son's wrestling competition, and it's all disputed. Flair says he was allowed it. Bischoff says he wasn't. He got sacked. It's why they keep mentioning this, you know, but it's not mentioned on TV. So they mention it like once when they come back, like you know. But if you're not in the know, everyone's gonna be like, "What the hell are they talking about?" You know, it's got nothing to do with. But anyway.
Well, this is the problem we've had with this all the way through, John, isn't it? Is that there's no real central conceit of this feud.
Yeah.
Like there's no central premise that everything hinges upon. It's just like a general. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we've done to each other and we hate each other, but there's no real crux to what's going on.
Yeah.
So when I said that this is a segment of two halves, what I meant really is that I didn't really like this bit at the beginning. I thought Arn Anderson was good in it. And I think Eric Bischoff is great. I think he's really, really good as an on-screen character. I really, really cringe at the child doing Ric Flair impressions. I don't like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't. I didn't. It didn't do anything for me. I just didn't like. There was nothing about this where I was like, "Oh, this is great."
So here's the thing.
feel
I
different
agree.
about
So basically, the process is this: Arn Anderson comes out with Ric Flair's boy. He shows some amateur wrestling moves to Bischoff, who's there like, who cares? And then the Ric Flair's son basically tackles him twice, doesn't he? Like, does a couple of takedowns on him. Okay.
Mhm.
Here's the thing. Again, on paper, I think I wouldn't have enjoyed this. I'd have said, no, let's not get this involved. It's pointless and blah blah blah. However, the crowd reaction won me over with it, because the crowd did enjoy this. And against that thing, if they hadn't popped for it, I think I'd have been sitting there cringing, going, "Oh, it hasn't worked." But it did work. The crowd loved seeing Bischoff getting humbled by this 10-year-old, and because the crowd were into it, I was into it.
I wouldn't have minded it. I didn't like the strutting and the wooing by the little boy with this ridiculous bowl haircut. Like I just
Again,
can't. I
agree.
don't like
I agree. I didn't like that either. But if you actually look at the crowd when he's doing that, they're like, "Ah, good on him," you know. So I was kind of like, okay, if the crowd are enjoying it, I can forgive it.
Yeah.
But what, I mean, your sense of segment of two halves. What was the second half that you thought was great? Because the second half I didn't think was really much of anything.
Well, no, all right. It weren't much of anything. It was too short because they'd wasted too much time on the stupid little boy segment.
Although what I will say is this, right? So this obviously cuts to a break, and it comes back with Eric Bischoff trying to get Ric Flair on the phone.
Yeah.
Why was that going on for so long? And then he gets Ric Flair's wife on the phone, who apparently yells at him down the phone, which I got watching it on TV, where the commentators are telling me that's what's happening. If you're in the crowd, how are you meant to know what the hell is going? He's miming, looking at this phone like but like, who's he on the phone to?
I don't think it matters because in the previous segment, they've just had this thing where he's been taken down twice and embarrassed. Now, Arn and this little boy have obviously cleared off, and he's now in the ring ranting and raving. Liz has turned up from somewhere, and he's ranting and raving and screaming at her. And you probably can't hear what he's saying, but he's, you know, whatever. You get the idea. He gets on the phone, and you don't really know what's going on. And then Ric Flair's music hits very shortly after that, so it doesn't really matter. But I just think that I really appreciated his pantomiming of being shouted, being sworn at.
Oh no, yeah, I quite like that as well.
The way he physically flinches, like, and goes, like, looks at the phone in disgust when, like, she sort of swears at him. I thought it was really funny. And yeah, and I also liked his reaction when Ric Flair's music hit. Like, he doesn't do, like, you know, in like the WWF, it would always be the glass would break or the if you smell, and everyone would spin around and stare at the entranceway. This is just Ric Flair's music just comes in gradually, softly as it does, and Eric Bischoff. You just see him talking on the phone, and just the pantomime, like, even from behind, right? You can't see his facial expressions or anything. You just see his sort of shoulders just slump like that, and just go, oh. And then he just puts the phone down and just slowly turns around. And here's the thing: you're right. This second, it's not like this was an amazing segment, but I thought this second part of the segment was what the Horsemen should have been the whole time. This is what it should have been.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah.
Ric Flair comes to the ring. He's about to have his way with Bischoff. The NWO come out, but here comes the Horsemen, and they're kicking the crap out of the NWO. It was nice to see. I thought it was nice to see Stevie where he belonged in amongst the putties.
Yes, I agree. But no, you're right. Like, yeah, Ric Flair comes out, then the NWO come out, the Horsemen appear, beat up the NWO and see him off. Great, the Horsemen are competent. And I was like, oh, awesome. That made them look good and competent.
I agree the first part of the segment was given more time and was therefore better in that respect. I just disagree that that is what it should have been. I don't like this idea that, like, what with the horse, you keep showing these promo packages of them kicking the shit out of people, and then every week they come out, they're either getting bitched out or they're bringing out children to like humiliate people. It's like, can't we just beat the shit out of people? I thought, that's what we're doing here.
So the main event tonight has been billed as Sting versus Bret Hart for the US title. Sting comes out and gets a massive pop because he's Sting, and of course he does. Bret Hart starts to come out and then stops and then wanders backstage again. And Sting follows him. And this main event turns into not a match at all, but a backstage brawl for 10 minutes. And it's fucking great.
Oh, mate, I think it's brilliant.
I'm sure, and at the end of the segment, you can hear people, when they realise it's the end of the show and that's what they're getting, you can hear the crowd booing, because clearly they wanted a match with Sting and Bret Hart for the US title. In all honesty, for the person at home, I'm happy with this.
You know what I liked about it? How understated it was, and how quiet it was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Was like this
yeah.
It was like a big, open, deserted corridor, no one else around. It was echoing everywhere, and they weren't talking trash to each other throughout it. Really, there was a little bit in the middle, but it was just
little bits and bobs. Yeah,
like right at the end when they were sort of choking each other and stuff, they were doing a bit of trash talking, and when he got him in the Scorpion Deathlock. But at the start when they're brawling, it's just the sound of bang and pipes crashing around.
It is! Once again, how many times have we gone to the back here tonight? Oh, finally gets a blow in and doesn't face Sting at all. The fight in the... Once again, I didn't even... At first, Bret Hart's trying to maneuver a table here. Super. Right, that's a very good call, Larry. And Bret Hart had to do it. He may have done it. But as long as we can, I don't know when this is going to end. To hatred as never before in our sport.
Save.
Stop him. The thing didn't start. Two of the most remarkable athletes ever, and it's come to this. And Sting has got the leverage here, and oh my. He's into the move. Scorpion Deathlock.
Blake him out a couple minutes ago.
He's not back far enough.
There you see him moving it.
There's something about it that makes it seem like a more real fight.
This is the thing. This does just feel like a fight because I like the way as well. And this doesn't often happen. Sting keeps his coat on the whole time, I believe.
Yeah,
and it looks awesome. It looks really, really cool. But look, there aren't that many spots in this fight. Like they start fight, they go backstage, they start fighting. Bret Hart Bret Hart to begin with is getting his head kicked in and getting his head thrown into. He looks great when he gets his head thrown into doors. Bret Hart is so good.
Times have we gone to the back here tonight? It's a blow in and doesn't face Sting at all.
This looks like a fight between two guys. Like Bret Hart starts working over Sting's leg. He hits with the chair. No, he wraps it up in a chair and then hits the chair, which wouldn't actually do anything when you look at it because he's just hitting the chair flat down and it's not even the way it bends, but it's still, I'll buy that it's meant to hurt Sting's leg. Then Sting's selling his leg the whole time. When they get the poles and they start swinging poles at each other, well, at one point Sting swings at Bret Hart as he ducks into a doorway and he just slams a pole against the wall and it looks like he's genuinely trying to kill him with his pole. There's a bit where Sting actually hits him with a pole when he's lying on the floor. I can't believe it's before or after he just starts choking him with this pole. And he's just got this pole over his neck. And you hear the commentators go like, oh!
Come to this. And Sting has got the leverage here. And oh my goodness.
Keep the weight on him.
And Sting's selling super well in this as well.
So at one point he stands up after getting his leg smashed up a bit, and the commentators are sort of saying like, "Oh, he can't have much use left of that leg," and then he starts literally hopping across to a bin, and Bobby Heenan's like, "Oh, it's done. He's not got his leg's done." And then it plays into a bit later when towards the end of the fight, he gets him in the Scorpion Deathlock, and one of them's going, "He's not sitting back far enough."
No, that was Larry's. I was going to mention that actually. But no, and there's a bit where Bret Hart tries to start a little scooter car thing, but it won't start. And I guess it was meant to. I guess they hadn't really planned this. They were just like, we'll have a fight backstage. So Bret was like, try and drive this.
I don't think this fight was at all planned out. I think it was just here's a space.
Yeah, do stuff.
Work your way through the space and have a fight. I don't think there was any planning involved. So I don't think that was a planned spot that botched. I think he just went, oh, fuck it, why not? Do you know what I mean? Like, see if that would, but then it just, it don't have keys in it. Oh, well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and then he carried on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
I like stuff like that. But here's the thing, I like stuff like that because it feels like a real fight. If he was actually, I'm going to try and run this bastard over, and then he's like, oh, I can't do that, I'll do something else then. That's actually, I quite like that because it's like, this isn't all planned spots, all by the chances there are keys in this thing. And that way you kind of go, man, Bret Hart's a vicious bastard. He was going to try and run Sting over. He just wasn't able to. You still get the impact of it. The end comes when Sting hits him, chokes him with a pole, hits him with a pole that looks really painful. He does do the thing where, you hit over the top of him, so it clacks on the floor. But he still gets a good chunk of Bret Hart's arm in this. It looked like sort of is there. And then he gets on the Scorpion Deathlock. And you're right, Larry Zbyszko, it's actually Larry Zbyszko at that point, criticizes the application of the Scorpion Deathlock, which I know does play into the whole idea of his leg being hurt. But when I was watching it, I was just like, that's just how Sting does the Scorpion Deathlock. I hate to break it to everyone. He just doesn't apply it very well. Yeah. In the battle of who does the better hold, Bret Hart is miles ahead.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and then Sting's got him in the Scorpion Deathlock, and Bret Hart's just yelling at him, you're a cheater. You're a cheater.
No, mate, I was going to say about that. I think that's such a good spot. The fact they've been hitting each other with poles and throwing each other into doors and crotching each other on stuff and throwing each other through tables. And it's when he puts on the wrestling hold, he's like, you goddamn cheater.
Yeah. Well, I bet in Bret Hart's mind, that makes perfect sense. They're there to brawl, and you've put me in a wrestling hold where I can't get the ropes or anything. We're meant to be fighting. Like, to him, that is cheating. I get it. But then I also like the way this ends, because it's weird. There isn't an ending. He just lets go of the hold. Like, I think security start turning up. You see, like, Doug Dillinger in the back sort of hovering.
Yeah.
And then they just walk away. And that's the end of the show. It's just Bret Hart goes one way down the corridor and Sting wanders off his own way. And that's it. But it's weird because it works.
Yeah, it's a real...
I don't... Yeah, like, I'm not there, like, but there wasn't an ending. He didn't, like, throw him through a glass window. There wasn't a big crescendo. It's just Sting got him in the hold. And then he let go. And then these guys who have just kicked 7 barrels of crap out of each other walk away because they're like, I can't do more of that. Like, we've done it. Like, Sting's very much like, I've won. I've got my revenge on this guy who attacked me last week and betrayed me. And Bret Hart's probably just like, Jesus Christ, he just kicked my ass. I need to get out of here. I love this as an ending.
But mate, that's what I said right at the start of this. One of my favorite things about this is that it is understated. It isn't it isn't guys screaming smack talk at each other for 5 minutes. You know, it's not the Austin Booker T supermarket brawl where it's all funny and it's all set up to have spots done all over the place and comedy skits. That's not what it is. It's not.
It isn't. And you know what else it isn't? It isn't Brock Lesnar and Undertaker having to be pulled apart by the entire roster.
Yeah.
Which is always it's quite cool seeing that now and then. But this is so different to what you would do. It's just, you're right. They go in the back and it's pretty much silent. These two guys are just having a fight in the back and it's silent. And it's just these two guys whacking each other.
Kind of have the vibes of an empty arena match, right?
Yeah. Also, I quite like the way this plays into the whole feud because they were meant to have a match for the US title. Bret Hart basically refused to do that and tried to leave. Well, was he actually leaving? Was he luring? He wasn't luring Sting into a trap. He was just trying to leave. So Bret Hart started to defend himself, and they've just had a fight. And that's what Sting. That's all Sting wanted. He just wanted to fight. It wasn't about the title. He just wants to kick the shit out of Bret Hart.
And we do have to get out of here. We're at the top.
Thank you for listening, everyone who has. Please leave a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. John, what were your opinions on this Nitro? How do you feel about it in comparison to the other three that we've watched?
It's a bit of a strange one. I would say the first hour is forgettable, and then as soon as it hits the second hour, you have the NWO Wolfpack fight, which is classic. You have a Judy Bagwell segment that I didn't remember was on this show that works incredibly well. You have the Reed Flair segment that I think works quite well, and that's more famous than even the Judy Bagwell one. You have the Warrior Mirror spot, that's one of the most famous ones that I didn't realise was on this show. And then you have this great main event that's, a big false finish main event thing, but it's great. I would say the second half of this show, from the end of the Wolfpack turning up, is really, really good. I would say the second half of this almost matches the levels of the very first show we did.
I agree with everything that you said. Steiner and Buff are always a joy.
Yep.
We also had a couple of really good matches. The Cruiserweight title match was fun, and I liked the DDP Canyon match.
Canyon match, yeah, that was great.
Canyon angle. So yeah, I'd say overall good show. Maybe not.
I would say this is the second. I would say this is the second best show we've seen after the first one. Highlights for Steiner, highlights for Steiner and Buff, the NWO through line. Kidman's still a workhorse. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for joining us, John, and giving us your opinion.
Cool. Thank you. Till next time.